President Henrich and honored guests, the 2015 commencement of the Graduate School of Biomedical Sciences is now formed. I am Dr. David Weiss, Dean of the Graduate School of Biomedical Sciences. Everyone, please be seated. Esteemed members of the platform party, faculty, graduates, and their friends and family, good afternoon and welcome to the 2015 commencement of the Graduate School of Biomedical Sciences at the University of Texas Health Science Center at San Antonio. What an exciting weekend this is for our institution. Starting today and throughout the rest of this weekend, all 5 schools in this Health Science Center will be graduating their respective classes. We will be sending off approximately 850 students as dentists, nurses, physicians, specialized health professionals, and scientists. While all of these graduates from all of these schools will no doubt do great things, I trust my colleagues, my deans in the other schools, will allow me to point out something quite unique about the educational process of the graduating students who will be receiving their degrees here today. While these graduate students certainly take courses, the real journey occurs in the laboratory where they undergo their own unique journey. And there is no map for this. There is no script to follow, no instruction manual of which particular experiments to perform or how to interpret the exciting new data they have acquired. It has been the student, and much of the time the student alone, plugging away day after day, chasing down some fascinating scientific problem, trying to understand, for example, the intricacies of how some protein molecule folds, so we can eventually understand why that protein sometimes misfolds, leading to devastating diseases such as Alzheimer's and cystic fibrosis. Or trying to understand the subcellular molecular interactions that are important for the function of a cell, so we can ultimately understand why those interactions can go awry and the cell can become cancerous and multiply out of control and produce tumors. Or to understand how cells in the brain move specific ions across the membrane, thereby creating electricity to communicate with each other, so we can understand what happens when that electricity goes haywire, leading to seizures in the brain and epilepsy. Yes, each of you graduates here today followed your own unique pathway, no two alike. And by being here today, we all know you have made significant and novel contributions to the continuum of knowledge that now leads you to the scientists and scholars that span all time. And this new knowledge that you provided for all posterity did not come easy, far from it, but it came nevertheless. Think about that. You learned things that were never known before. And let me tell you, the excitement and thrill of discovery never gets old. I suspect when you first started, you thought you would be students for several years, then you'd get your degrees, and you'd be done. But now you know this is not true. By the path you have chosen, you will be students of sort, scholars actually, for the rest of your careers. And one day, not too far down the road, many of you will be faculty members sitting in the audience, like today, getting ready to hood your own student as they receive their diploma. How cool is that? So I want to say, graduates, how proud and excited we are for what you have accomplished while you have been here with us. You came as our students, but you now leave as our colleagues. And we look forward to learning of many great discoveries and contributions that you will make down the road. Please now allow me to introduce the esteemed members of our platform party, and I would ask each member to briefly stand when their name is called, and please hold all the applause until the end. Dr. Redo Asmus, Senior Associate Dean, Graduate School of Biomedical Sciences. Dr. William Happens every year, don't be afraid. Dr. William Henrich, President, UT Health Science Center. Dr. Bettie Sue Masters, the Robert Welch Distinguished Professor in Chemistry and Professor of Biochemistry. Dr. Patrick Davis, Senior Associate Dean for Academic Affairs, College of Pharmacy, UT Austin. Dr. Francisco Gonzalez Scarano, Dean, School of Medicine and Vice President for Medical Affairs. Dr. David Shellady, Dean, School of Health Professions. Dr. Eileen Breslin, Dean, School of Nursing. Dr. Andrea Giafrida, Vice President for Research. Dr. Jacqueline Mock, Vice President for Academic, Faculty, and Student Affairs. Dr. Birgit Glass, Associate Dean for Academic Affairs, Dental School. Dr. Sarah Gill, Director of Doctoral Studies, School of Nursing. Dr. Nakay Blake, Associate Dean, Graduate School of Biomedical Sciences. Dr. Sophie Pina, Assistant Dean, Graduate School of Biomedical Sciences. And Dr. Jose Cavazos, Assistant Dean for the MD PhD program. It is now my honor to call the president of our Health Science Center to the podium. Dr. Henrich.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Dean Weiss. Ladies and gentlemen, honored graduates, it's a pleasure to be here and bring greetings on behalf of the entire University of Texas Health Science Center family to this happy occasion. I also want to welcome our distinguished faculty who've mentored these students and done a superb job in bringing them to this point. I know it's exciting for the graduates, it's exciting for family and friends of these graduates, but I would judge that it is equally exciting for the mentors of these students as it is for all of us at the Health Science Center. I want to thank Dean Weiss for his leadership of the graduate school and say that I'm especially proud of the new programs which have started in the graduate school. Many of these are innovative and creative. The faculty's done a superb job in implementing these programs, and the diversity, the heterogeneity of the offerings to our graduate students now is highly articulated. They've done an excellent job, so thank you, faculty, for your work. And also thank Dr. Bettie Sue Masters, my dear friend and colleague, for offering her words of wisdom today. Dr. Masters is one of our most distinguished faculty at the Health Science Center, and she's been an inspiration to me and a beacon to many in this school for many decades, so having her speak today is particularly meaningful. Something Dean Weiss said just a minute ago resonates with me, and that is that we have three missions in the Health Science Center. Clinical care is certainly one of them. Education at all levels for all of our students is another. And then research, clinical and basic research, is the third. And of these three, I'm persuaded that being able to be involved in research successfully takes special perseverance, special creativity, and the roadmap, the A to B to C progression isn't so delineated as it is in other disciplines. The curricula has to be somewhat variable. It has to be flexible to allow you to go where the science, where the data leads you. I have every expectation and all confidence that you will be successful in this field, and I certainly wish you well. So congratulations to each of you for a job so well done. Congratulations again to the faculty. Congratulations to your faculty, to your families, which have supported you during this odyssey. I want you to know that even though we don't see each other every day, in fact, some of you probably haven't seen me before in your life. We are proud of you, sincerely proud of you. We are delighted to be here on this day when we pause formally to recognize your success. We have the greatest expectations for you. We wish you well, and I want to be the first person to invite you to come back. Now that you're alums, I want you to come back and see us and spend time with us. Kick the tires, go back and see the lab where you trained, or the classrooms where you trained, where you first learned your craft. And in so doing, I hope you'll recall fondly these days that you spent with us, the experiments that worked, the ones that didn't, and in all of this, knowing that you were doing noble work that will make a difference for all of us. God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you, President Henrich. Well, our tradition of late has been to invite outside speakers to give the Graduate School of Biomedical Sciences commencement address. But this year, we're going to break that tradition. This year, for a very good reason that will soon be clear, we have asked our very own Dr. Bettie Sue Masters to have this honor, and we are very honored that she agreed. Briefly, Dr. Masters is a biochemist and received her PhD from Duke University. She began her academic career at UT Southwestern, where she rose through the ranks to professor before she was recruited to Wisconsin to chair their department of biochemistry. She was recruited to San Antonio in 1990 to be our first Robert A. Welch Distinguished Professor, an honor that she holds to this day. Dr. Masters is an extraordinary scientist with over 340 scientific publications. That's right, you heard right, 340. In the broadest sense, she studies the structure of proteins, how they function at the molecular level, and how they are dysfunctional in a variety of diseases. Her science has remained funded by the National Institutes of Health and other funding agencies throughout her very productive and distinguished scientific career. Honors and accolades are far too numerous to mention in full, but examples include an NIH Merit Award, which is reserved only for the very best. She also received the Federation of American Societies for Experimental Biology Excellence in Science Award, and the American Society for Pharmacology and Experimental Therapeutics Bernard B. Brody Award. She was president of the American Society for Biochemistry and Molecular Biology from 2002 to 2004, and elected to the Institute of Medicine of the National Academy of Sciences in 1996, one of the highest honors in science and one that very few achieve. For some 5 decades, and still true to this day, she's been at the very top of her field. The reason we asked Dr. Masters to address the students today is because she is retiring from our Health Science Center at the end of this calendar year and will be moving to North Carolina to begin the next exciting phase of her life. But it is not just her scientific prowess that I mentioned that will be missed. We will miss her inspiration to and compassion for students, faculty, and staff. We will miss her tireless advocacy for science and scientific education at the local, national, and international levels. For students, faculty, and the Health Science Center leaders sitting up on this stage, Dr. Masters has been an infinite source of knowledge and a steadfast force that has helped propel our institution forward. We have been lucky to have her as a leader of our institution for the past 20 years, and from a personal level, I want to thank her from the bottom of my heart for all that she's done for the graduate school. Her impact upon this institution, science, and society will be felt for generations to come. Some say that no one is irreplaceable, but they don't know our Bettie Sue. Dr. Masters?
I don't know who that person was. So I'm going to start my talk by addressing the students, faculty, family, faculty, President Henrich, Dean Weiss, and distinguished members of the platform party. I can't tell you how pleased I am to have been asked to share some ideas and experiences with you today. Of course, those who know me well realize it's dangerous to give me a stage on which to express myself. So if I must have a theme for my thoughts to share with you today, I would propose the paths we choose. Now, I'm going to try an experiment on everybody today, and it may fall flat, but you know. I'm going to talk about a little science in the guise of the paths we choose. Since all of you have been trained to be scientists, I've chosen my remarks in that context. In the context of my personal odyssey, in particular scientific endeavors, to illustrate that it isn't always the perfect plan that works. And in fact, that's what discovery is all about. And it's not those things that succeed, but often making the right choice, even in the event of adversity. And we all know that these days, things are hard. They're a little tougher than they were maybe back in my day. But before I begin my talk, I want to recognize the people in my lab who stand behind me. I wouldn't be standing up here today. I wouldn't be able to accomplish any of the things that I have accomplished without them. So I'm showing you those people on the slide here. And I guess there's a pointer somewhere. I don't see it, but okay. Here we go. Maybe this is it. Does anybody know how to use this? Anyway, well, these are the individuals who work in my lab and contribute to our research. And then on the lower right-hand corner, there's kind of a fuzzy figure there, and it says, "Who is this?" Well, that was in 1990 when I first came to the Health Science Center and actually knew how to handle a pipette. Of course, I've forgotten how to do that, and I wouldn't know how to turn on some of the instruments anymore. But anyway, with those remarks, I'll go ahead and go ahead. So this person was a student, just like you were, in the early 1960s, and I was doing dissertation research on a flavoprotein. Now, what's a flavoprotein? It's a protein that contains riboflavin derivatives. And that's why you take vitamins, right? We didn't even know what its defined function was, but it had a really nice yellow color if you look at the bottom of that tube there. I was very proud of that. I went to Sheffield, England to do some very particular studies with some very fine scientists who knew how to use particularly sophisticated instrumentation. So what we knew in the early 1960s was really very little about this protein. We had no idea what it did. We knew that it took NADPH, which is a source of electrons, and reduced cytochrome C. But the problem was that cytochrome C is in the mitochondrion of the cell, and this enzyme happened to be in the endoplasmic reticulum of the cell. So what's that mean? What did it mean physiologically? Well, it was up to us to find that out. So this is where choices become very important. I chose the right mentor when I was at Duke University. His name was Dr. Henry Kamen. He was a real Renaissance man. He not only taught me about science and how to ask the right questions, but he taught me how to read history, appreciate music. He was a real person, a rounded person. And I really appreciated having that guidance. I'm sure that each of you have had experiences with your mentors that have taught you different things other than the science that you were being taught in the lab. So when I left Duke, not only was my mentor a teacher of great a promise and great achievement, but he was a kind and generous man. And when I finished my work there, I had a purified enzyme in my hands, which saw it in that little test tube. He gave that enzyme to me and said, "You can take that enzyme with you and you can study it." Because we didn't know at that time what it did. So I did. I took purified protein and I walked in the door at Southwestern, and that protein enabled me to make antibodies. So what I hoped was that those antibodies would be able to inhibit the activity, and then I might know something about what it did. So in fact, that's exactly what we did, and if I weren't successful, I wouldn't be telling you this, right? So here's a really old slide that came from my first JBC paper, and what we did was we added these antibodies to endoplasmic reticulum, and we were measuring different activities. And one of those activities was drug metabolism. And lo and behold, the antibody inhibited that activity. But it also inhibited cytochrome C reductase activity, which is what we were measuring all along. And it inhibited cytochrome P450 reduction. Now, I sure as heck hope that all of you have been exposed to cytochrome P450 because it's kind of important. Now, don't pay attention to all those details. I just want you to know that these enzymes require molecular oxygen. They also require electron equivalents, as I said earlier, from NADPH in the cell. And the enzymes have cofactors or prosthetic groups, which make them work. And again, I'm going to repeat, the reason you take vitamins is that those cofactors are derived from those vitamins, and that's why they're essential. So, although I will not develop the story today, an additional choice was made in our laboratory to study nitric oxide syntases. And you think, well, where did that come from? With entirely different biological functions. So there was a serendipity here. And that was that the flavoprotein, and Saul Snyder actually published the paper that got us turned on to this, and Saul Snyder will be here in the fall, in October, to give a keynote address. He taught us that this protein had flavins in it. Oh, wow. Well, what flavins did it have? It had the same ones that the reductase had. So that kind of, tickled our fancy. So we thought, well, let's do some experiments on this enzyme and see what else it does. So I had a really ambitious and in fact, he had been a gourmet chef for 10 years, and he wanted to go back to school because he said, I don't think I can stand being a gourmet chef for the rest of my life. So he came into the lab, and he could do 10 things at once, and he worked very hard on this enzyme, and he found that it had a heme in it. Now, what's a cytochrome? It has heme in it. So, wow, if that's the case, then this one protein not only had the flavins in it, but it had the heme in it as well. So that discovery was a real revelation in the field. And he did that himself. So I'm not going to tell you the sequel to this story, but it will be developed in the able hands of Drs. Linda Roman and Martin Adamo in cellular and whole animal models, which will examine the role of nitric oxide synthase in skeletal muscle and cardiac muscle upon insulin signaling and oxidative stress in animals and in humans. And a defect in NO production has been identified already in human skeletal muscle in insulin-resistant subjects. So there is a reason for following this up. Now, the chemical resemblance, which I've already pointed out to you, between these two enzyme systems illustrated how clever nature is in designing these proteins so that they take these themes and use them in different ways to do different things. And in the case of nitric oxide synthase, there's only one unique substrate, and that's L-arginine, which is an essential amino acid. But in the case of the cytochromes P450, there are a myriad of substrates, including steroids, fatty acids, drugs, carcinogens. So we're going to return now to, well, this just shows you that the same kinds of chemistry occur with whoever's interested in this. The molecular oxygen and the NADPH are electron source. So let's get back to cytochrome P450 and drug metabolism. What many people don't realize is that approximately 90% of all of the therapeutic drugs on the market are metabolized by cytochromes P450. So, and there are various cytochromes P450. There are different amino acid sequences, and they do a little bit slightly different specificity with each of these substrates. But they catalyze those reactions. So we must understand how those things work, because we have things called, have you ever heard of this? Drug-drug interactions. So we must understand it. So Dr. Roman and I sort of depicted the system in the endoplasmic reticulum, showing you the big blob is the reductase interacting with the smaller blob, which is the cytochrome P450, and they float around in this membrane, bouncing against each other and catalyzing those reactions. Now, previously, no P450 reductase mutations had been identified in human beings, but a report appeared in the literature. An opportunity arose, and another choice was made. So Dr. Walter Miller at UCSF, who is an endocrinologist and a pediatric endocrinologist, made the discovery that there are human beings who have these defects, and he actually pinpointed several of the mutations, and now that those mutations have become many, which I'll show you in a moment. Unfortunately, the children who have this syndrome are very badly damaged. They not only have craniofacial disorders, but they have serious steroid deficiencies, which play out in genital malformations. So we made some choices in the lab. We decided that with our skills that we could go and do some bacterial expression, purify enzymes, characterize these various mutants, and then perhaps solve the solutions, the crystal structure of these enzymes. And we did just that. And let me tell you, this is a very labor-intensive thing. And I'm not telling students anything when I tell you, and I'm looking at one of the students in the audience laughing because she was involved in purifying these enzymes. And they are purified, so you now have them in hand, then you try to crystallize them, and then you learn something about where the apposition of the various residues are so that you can know what has happened to cause this problem. So one of the things that we did discover that could be fixed was that several of the mutants couldn't bind the flavin very well. Remember I told you, you need flavin to make these things work. So in the case of these two mutants, the R457H and the V492E, if you added flavin back, you gained back almost all of the activity. So it turns out that there are some enzyme deficiencies of other flavoproteins that have been actually cured or at least modified in utero by the addition of riboflavin. Those are the acyl-CoA dehydrogenases, for example. So one can do something. That's why one goes into this minute detail. And I'm trying to tell the parents, you know, who probably think, what is my kid doing? You know, why are they spending all this time in the lab and beating their head against the wall to understand these things? Now, this is my colleague at the Medical College of Wisconsin, which got the thing on my gown here, who did the crystallography, and I just wanted to recognize her. But look at all of those mutations that occur in humans. Now, those are not all detrimental. Some of them are innocuous, they don't do anything, but some of them do cause very severe problems. So, now we gotta make more choices. What do we do next? So we've already gone through the first few stages, you know, and gone down to the, well, now I guess we better look in the animal and see how the animal's doing, and maybe the animal can tell us something about what's happening here. So we were in the process of crossbreeding some mice with certain genetic characteristics when we became very discouraged. I mean, we had spent a lot of money on a lot of cages and let these mice interact with each other, and nothing was happening. But we were getting ready to chuck the whole experiment, but one of us, Dr. Satya Panda, whose picture was on an earlier slide, insisted on waiting a little bit longer, smart guy, to see if a phenotype appeared, and in fact, one did. And again, I wouldn't be telling you about this if it hadn't succeeded. And I've left a slide out, but in one case, this slide certainly shows that the mice are very much smaller, and you can see a malformation in the spine in this one test here. But they also had a malocclusion in the mandible, so that it recapitulated the human disease. So we had a model that we could now look at and say, okay, what's going on here? Why is this happening in bone? So we need to do some more experiments, and you know, we'll go on with molecular aspects of those mutations, but we'll also look at cellular consequences of those mutations. We've got the phenotype, so what downstream events are affected during development of the organism, and our redox events. Those oxidation reduction reactions that I keep talking about, are they directly or indirectly responsible? So there are lots of questions to be answered yet. So these are the colleagues and collaborators who I've mentioned before. We have a number of outside ones. I won't spend time on that at the moment. So what message am I trying to give here from all this minutia? I guess I'm trying to say we can't map out our destinies, and actually Dr. Weiss said those words himself. But we can prepare our minds to take advantage of opportunities that arise. And making the right choices becomes imperative. But serendipity then becomes the effect of responding to those opportunities. So you graduates have been provided the tools that you need to pursue whatever opportunities or fates that confront you. And I hope you make the best of those as you go forward. Now, the last pieces of advice that I'm going to give you are, I highly recommend choosing the most supportive partner in your life. I did. Bob was the foundation of my happiness and success, and I will be enjoying Duke Gardens quite often now with my 2 daughters, sons-in-law, and 3 grandchildren. They never cease to amaze me, and in fact, that young man standing up there will be performing in Carnegie Hall on Sunday afternoon, and I'm flying to New York tomorrow morning to join the family there to watch him play. So I'm very proud of them and the people who supported me in my life. But I hope that you will make those choices. Sometimes they don't pan out the way you'd want them, but I bet you in the end, if you think through and use your imagination and use the training that you've gotten, that you will succeed. Now, my final choice, this cartoon, this caricature was made by my sister, who knows me all too well, and you can see she's picked some of my characteristics out quite well. And showing me going to retirement with things flying out behind me and piles of paper, and I still have those piles of paper, and I hope to goodness that I can get rid of them. But I want to wish all of you the very best in your future. You have a wonderful future ahead of you, and you have the tools that you need to pursue it. So good luck.
Thank you so much, Dr. Masters. Carnegie Hall, 16 years old, right? Amazing. Okay, at this time, it is my privilege to introduce the Graduate School of Biomedical Sciences candidates for the Master's of Science degree, the Doctor of Medical Physics degree, the Doctor of Pharmacy degree, and the Doctor of Philosophy degree. The Doctor of Pharmacy degree program is a jointly sponsored program between the Health Science Center and the University of Texas at Austin. Now, will all the candidates from all of the programs please stand for President Henrich, who will bestow your respective degrees. Dr. Henrich, on behalf of the faculty of the University of Texas Health Science Center at San Antonio, and in the case of the Doctor of Pharmacy candidates, the faculty of the University of Texas at Austin, I am pleased to present to you the candidates listed in the program as having successfully completed the academic requirements for the designated degrees.
Thank you, Dean Weiss. Well, are you ready? This won't hurt a bit. By the authority vested by the state of Texas and the Board of Regents of the University of Texas system, and delegated by them to me, I hereby confer upon each of you your respective designated degree and all the rights, honors, and obligations pertaining to that degree. And I offer my sincere congratulations. You may now be seated.
At this time, Dr. Reto Asmus, Senior Associate Dean of the Graduate School of Biomedical Sciences, will step forward to announce the presentation of diplomas.
On behalf of the Graduate School of Biomedical Sciences, I'm proud to present the graduates for the Masters of Science degree. When your name is called, please come forward to be hooded and receive the diploma. The supervising professors will also please come forward to bestow the hood, and then please return to your seats. Damian Black, Supervising Professor, Dr. Chol Chong, Dental Science Program. Tyler Borg, Supervising Professor, Dr. Brian Mealy, Dental Science Program. Ines Basul, Supervising Professor, Dr. Marcel Nugem, hooded by Dr. Hassam Gehat, Dental Sciences Program. Bradley DeGroat, Supervising Professor, Dr. Guy Hunaba, Dental Sciences Program. Kaylee Eves, Supervising Professor, Dr. Brian Mealy, Dental Sciences Program. Ashley Hodders, Supervising Professor, Dr. Guy Hunaba, Dental Sciences Program. Peter Holden, Supervising Professor, Dr. Robin Leach, hooded by Dr. Teresa Johnson-Paez, Dental Sciences Program. Erlene June, Supervising Professor, Dr. Ellen Craig, Dental Sciences Program. Kaitu Lincoln, Supervising Professor, Dr. Richard Batzer, Dental Sciences Program. Scott Makins, Supervising Professor, Dr. Hasim Geha, Dental Science Program. Robert McKenzie, Supervising Professor, Dr. Yidong Bai, Cellular and Structural Biology Program. Ashley Reyes, Supervising Professor, Dr. Richard Batzer, Dental Science Program. Floyd David Settles, Supervising Professor Dr. Jeffrey Clark, Radiological Sciences Program. Lisa Schaff, Supervising Professor Dr. Shu Chen, Dental Science Program. Shi Tan, Supervising Professor Dr. Jack Lancaster, Biomedical Engineering Program. Lakshmi Vishwanath, Supervising Professor Dr. Bennett Amici, Clinical Investigation Program. "45 other Masters of Science graduates are being conferred the degree in absentia. These graduates have completed all academic requirements but were unable to be with us today. The Doctorate in Medical Physics program is a new program in the graduate school. On behalf of the Graduate School of Biomedical Sciences, I'm proud to present the first graduate for the Doctorate in Medical Physics, Wilbert Cruz. Supervising Professor Dr. Nikos Papanikolaou, hooded by Dr. Neil Kirby. The Doctor of Pharmacy, or PharmD program, is administered jointly by the University of Texas at Austin College of Pharmacy and the University of Texas Health Science Center in San Antonio. Over the past 41 years, this program has served as an excellent model of cooperation and collaboration between our two universities. On behalf of the faculty of the University of Texas at Austin College of Pharmacy and the Graduate School of Biomedical Sciences, Senior Associate Dean Patrick Davis from UT Austin will hood the graduates for the Doctorate of Pharmacy degree. I'm proud to present the graduates for the Doctor of Pharmacy degree. Again, when your name is called, please come forward to be hooded, receive the diploma, and then you will return to your seats. Kaylin Acker. Jacqueline Argamani. Dana Beck. Charlene Cheng. Julie Chin. Christina Dorman. Laura Gordon. Philip Graves. Jose Guzman. Randall Hinojosa. Justin Horowitz. Crystal Howell. Stephen Lee. Elaine Lowe. Teresa Wise. Sarah Woods-Jackin. Elizabeth Yu. 18 other PharmD graduates are being conferred the degree in absentia. These graduates have completed the requirements but were unable to be with us today. On behalf of the Graduate School of Biomedical Sciences, I'm proud to present to you and to their colleagues the graduates for the Doctor of Philosophy degree. When your name is called, please come forward to be hooded and receive the diploma. The supervising professor will please come forward to bestow the hood, and then you will return to your seats. Kendra Elfson, Supervising Professor Dr. Anthony Griffiths, hooded by Dr. Keith Krolig, Microbiology and Immunology Program. Xin Bao, Supervising Professor Dr. Hai Rao, hooded by Dr. Tim Hui Ming Huang, Molecular Medicine Program. Izar Bhatt, Supervising Professor Dr. Pratap Kumar, Cellular and Structural Biology Program. Crystal Blanchette, Supervising Professor Dr. Carlos Oriella, Microbiology and Immunology Program. Armand Brown, Supervising Professor Dr. Carlos Oriella, Microbiology and Immunology Program. Danielle Victor Callaway, Supervising Professor Dr. Jean Zhang, Cellular and Structural Biology Program. As an MD-PhD student, Danielle is also being hooded by Dr. Jose Cavazos, Assistant Dean of the MD-PhD Program. Yanan Chen, Supervising Professor Dr. James Lechleiter, Cellular and Structural Biology Program. Wai Jing Jun, Supervising Professor Dr. Rong Li, Molecular Medicine Program. Du-Un Choi, Supervising Professor Dr. Simon Yuan, hooded by Dr. Patricia Dahya, Cellular and Structural Biology Program. Vin Dao, Supervising Professor Dr. Tyler Curiel, hooded by Dr. Jose Cavazos, Microbiology and Immunology Program. Vin is also an MD PhD student. Dwayne Dufour, Supervising Professor, Dr. Sotirios Stastakis, Radiological Sciences Program. Fung Jing Go, Supervising Professor, Dr. Thomas Boyer, Molecular Medicine Program. Rachel Gialogo, Supervising Professor, Dr. Carrie Jo Braden, Nursing Science Program. Roberto Gonzalez Borbay, Supervising Professor, Dr. Molly Bergman, hooded by Dr. Carlos Oriella, Microbiology and Immunology Program. Carolyn Hall, Supervising Professor, Dr. Ellen Craig, Microbiology and Immunology Program. Caitlin Lewis Hardell, Supervising Professor, Dr. Rochelle Buffenstein, Cellular and Structural Biology Program. Pei Yin Shu, Supervising Professor, Dr. Tim Huiming Huang, Molecular Medicine Program. Rihanna Jamshidi, Supervising Professor, Dr. William Clark, Pharmacology Program. As an MD PhD student, Rihanna is also being hooded by Dr. Jose Cavazos, Assistant Dean of the MD PhD Program. Sarah Junko Wong, Supervising Professor, Dr. Chung Woo Kim, hooded by Dr. Bruce Nicholson, Biochemistry Program. Kevin Kawaluha, Supervising Professor, Dr. Nikos Papanikolaou, hooded by Dr. Sotirios Stastakis, Radiological Sciences Program. Samaya Krishnan, Supervising Professor, Dr. Ratna Vatlamudi, Cellular and Structural Biology Program. Justin A. Long, Supervising Professor Dr. Timothy Duong, Biomedical Engineering Program. Jorge Luis Medina, Supervising Professor Dr. Peter Dubé, Microbiology and Immunology Program. Sveta Mishra, Supervising Professor Dr. Lutse Sun, Cellular and Structural Biology Program. Angela Powell, Supervising Professor Dr. Sarah Gill, hooded by Dr. Sarah Gill and Dr. Jay Powell, Nursing Science Program. Kimberly Ray, Supervising Professor Dr. Angela Laird, Radiological Sciences Program. Michael Rydell, Supervising Professor Dr. Angela Laird, Radiological Sciences Program. Teresa Rizzo, Supervising Professor Dr. Andrea Berndt, Nursing Science Program. Shamila Sanchez, Supervising Professor Dr. Christy Walter, Cellular and Structural Biology Program. Rachel Smallwood, Supervising Professor Dr. Donald Robin, Biomedical Engineering Program. Suyu Sai, Supervising Professor Dr. Santanu Bose, hooded by Dr. Keith Krolik, Microbiology and Immunology Program. Sunil Kumar Valaparla, Supervising Professor Dr. Jeffrey Clark, Radiological Sciences Program. Sherwin Shung, Supervising Professor Dr. Rong Lee, Molecular Medicine Program. Nineteen other Doctor of Philosophy graduates are being conferred the degree in absentia. These graduates have completed the requirements but were unable to be with us today.
There you have it. Let me once again congratulate our class of 2015. How about another round of applause? We at the Graduate School of Biomedical Sciences also want to thank the students' friends and family that have been so supportive of your journey. And we know that support has been essential for the students' success up to this point and moving further. As a matter of fact, I'd like to ask all the graduates to stand up, turn around, and applaud your family and friends for their unwavering support. So graduates, take some time, enjoy the view, recharge, but don't take too long because we have much to learn and the world awaits your discoveries. Dr. Henrich, an honored guest, the 2015 commencement of the Graduate School of Biomedical Sciences is now concluded. The audience is requested to remain seated until all the graduates have left the auditorium. The platform party will exit the stage down the center aisle first. Our ushers will then prompt each consecutive row of graduates and faculty to follow behind them. Afterward, everyone, please join us for a reception in the foyer to congratulate the graduates. For the graduates, members of the platform party, and faculty, please stand for the recessional.